Hello, Taurus. Thank you for joining me. This is going to be a general reading. Sun, Moon, Rising, and Venus for February. As always, it cannot resonate with everyone, so just take what fits and throw the rest away. Let's jump right in and see what the cards have to tell us for February. Again, this is for Taurus, Sun, Moon, Rising, and Venus for February. No, that's too many because I have clumsy hands. Ace of Cups, there's a nice start. Two came out. The World. Oh, we got all of them now. Let's straighten these up a bit and we'll take a look and see what we've got here. Alright, so let's look at the story these cards tell when they're laid out together. Think of it less as a prediction and more like a conversation about where you might be emotionally and mentally right now. Okay? So the Ace of Cups opens the reading on a beautiful note. This is the spark of something heartfelt. New emotions, renewed passion, or an emotional reset. It can show up, as falling in love, forgiving someone, including yourself, or simply feeling open again after being closed off. For example, you might feel a sudden pull to reconnect with someone or to start a creative project that comes straight from the heart. Or you realize you're ready to feel deeply again instead of staying guarded. And then we move into the World, which is about completion, wholeness, and cycles coming full circle. Something is reaching a natural conclusion, and there's a sense that you could feel satisfied or accomplished here. Maybe you've grown a lot emotionally, and you're standing at the end of a chapter, graduating from a phase of life, finishing a long-term goal, or finally understanding a lesson that you've been repeating for years. Paired with the Ace of Cups, this suggests emotional maturity. Okay? You're not just starting something new, you're doing it with wisdom from what you've already lived through. However, Seven of Swords introduces a complication. This card often points to avoidance, secrecy, or not being fully honest, either with others or with yourself. Sometimes it's about strategy, but other times it's about quietly slipping away instead of facing a conversation. For instance, you might be telling yourself you're over it, while still checking someone's messages or convincing yourself the situation is fine when you know something feels off. There may be a temptation to take the easier route rather than the most authentic one. And then finally, we have the Eight of Swords. It brings the focus inward. This is the feeling of being mentally trapped, stuck in your own thoughts, fears, or assumptions. What's important here is that the cage is largely self-made. You may feel like you have no options, but in reality, you're the one holding the keys. An example could be staying in a draining situation because you believe you can't leave, or not expressing your feelings because you're convinced it will only make things worse. So putting it all together, this reading suggests that you're at a powerful emotional turning point. There's genuine potential for fulfillment and emotional renewal, but lingering fear, avoidance, or self-deception may be blocking you from fully stepping into it. The cards are asking gently, what truth are you avoiding, and how is that keeping you stuck? Once you're honest with yourself, and then the mental chains will loosen, and the promise of the Ace of Cups in the World can actually be lived, not just imagined. In short, your heart is ready. Your journey has brought you far, but freedom comes from clarity and courage. So let's grab some cards here to see if we can clarify a little bit on each of these, what's exactly in more detail going on. So, 2 cards, please, to clarify the Ace of Cups for my Tauruses. 2 cards, please. 1, 2. Got the 6 of Pentacles and the King of Swords. So these clarifiers are really nice. They sharpen the message up quite a bit. With the Ace of Cups, clarified by the Six of Pentacles and the King of Swords, The emotional new beginning here isn't just about feeling, it's about balance and clear-minded intention. The Six of Pentacles brings in the theme of reciprocity. This suggests that the emotional opening shown by the Ace of Cups wants to be mutual. It's not about overgiving, rescuing, or pouring your heart into something that can't meet you halfway. Instead, this is an energy of fair exchange. For example, in a relationship, it might look like both people making time, both communicating, both showing care, rather than one person always initiating or carrying the emotional load. In a non-romantic sense, it could mean learning to receive support just as comfortably as you give it. Now, the King of Swords adds mental clarity, honesty, and boundaries. This card asks you to approach this emotional beginning with your head as well as your heart. Feelings are valid, but they need to be guided by truth and clear communication. Think of a situation where you say, "This is how I feel, and this is what I need," without over-explaining or apologizing for it. The King of Swords doesn't play emotional games. He listens, analyzes, and speaks plainly. Together, these clarifiers suggest that this new emotional chapter works best when giving and receiving are balanced, and communication is direct and honest. So instead of losing yourself in emotion, the cards encourage emotion with structure, love with boundaries, openness paired with discernment. And this also softens the shadow of the Seven of Swords and the Eight of Swords from what we saw earlier. Clarity and fairness are the way out of confusion and self-imposed traps. So in short, the Ace here isn't naive or impulsive. It's saying, open your heart, yes, but do it wisely, equally, and with your eyes open. So let's see if we can clarify the world for my Taurus people. Clarify, please, the world. I'm going to take 2 cards. You have the Two of Cups and the Two of Swords. Lots of twos here. Okay, so let's see what this gives us. So these two, clarifying the world, add a really nuanced layer. Okay, so let's talk it through. The world already tells us that something has reached a point of completion or readiness. You're standing at the end of a cycle with the potential to step into something more whole and aligned. When we bring in the Two of Cups and the Two of Swords, it becomes clear that this completion is tied directly to a relationship and a choice. Okay? The Two of Cups points to mutual connection, agreement, and emotional reciprocity. This isn't one-sided or ambiguous. It's the we see each other energy. In practical terms, this could mean a relationship finally reaching a place of equality and understanding, or the realization that a certain connection truly does, or does not, meet you on the same level. It can also reflect harmony within yourself, your heart and mind coming into alignment. And then comes the Two of Swords, which shows a pause, a crossroads, often a deliberate refusal, okay, to look at something fully. You may already sense what's true, but you're holding yourself in stillness to avoid the emotional weight of the decision. For example, you might know that a relationship has run its course, or conversely, that it deserves full commitment, but you're hesitating because either option changes everything. Together, these clarifiers suggest that the world completion hangs on an honest decision about partnership. The cycle can't fully close, or the new one fully begin until you choose. The tension isn't because you don't know enough, it's because you know just enough to realize that the choice matters. So, this looks like a meaningful bond at a moment where clarity requires action, not avoidance. So in the larger reading, it fits beautifully. Your emotional renewal, Ace of Cups, is ready, balanced, and clear, but the world asks you to decide whether a certain connection belongs in the next chapter or stays in the last one. Once that decision is made, the sense of being stuck or mentally trapped begins to dissolve. So let's see if we can clarify the Seven of Swords, please, for our Taurus for February. 2 cards. One more shuffle. We have the King of Pentacles and the 8 of Pentacles. Okay. So these clarifiers bring a very grounded, practical lens to the Seven of Swords, and they shift its meaning away from pure deception into something more subtle and realistic. The Seven of Swords often shows someone acting alone, okay, avoiding confrontation, or choosing a quieter, indirect path. With the King of Pentacles and the 8 of Pentacles clarifying this, it looks less like sneaky behavior, more like strategic self-preservation through work, stability, and consistency. The King of Pentacles is steady, responsible, and focused on long-term security. He doesn't rush, and he doesn't gamble emotionally or financially. Now, pairing that with the Seven of Swords, this suggests someone may be choosing not to explain themselves or reveal their full plans because they're prioritizing stability. For example, you might quietly step back from a situation where building your own foundation, saving money, strengthening your career, or focusing on your self-worth without announcing it to everyone involved. Now, the 8 of Pentacles reinforces this by showing dedication, repetition, and improvement through effort. This is the heads down, hands busy energy. Instead of engaging in emotional drama or uncomfortable conversations, the focus shifts to doing the work. Think of someone who avoids a messy relationship discussion by pouring themselves into their job or personal development, not out of malice, but because progress feels safer than vulnerability, right? So together these clarifiers suggest that the Seven of Swords here is about withdrawing energy quietly to build something solid, okay? However, there's also a gentle warning: being productive can become a shield. If work and responsibility are being used to sidestep necessary honesty, the emotional tension doesn't disappear, it just goes underground. So in the context of the full spread here, it's saying you're capable of building real security, you're willing to put in the effort, but be mindful of using self-sufficiency as a way to avoid emotional truth, okay? In short, this is a strategic growth, but the cards ask whether it's aligned growth or growth that's quietly avoiding a deeper conversation. Let's clarify the 8 of Swords, please, for my Tauruses, and we'll see if we can get a little more detail on that. There. 10 of Pentacles and the Queen of Cups. So, these clarifiers soften the 8 of Swords in a really important way. They show why the mental trap exists and, more importantly, how to step out of it, okay? The 8 of Swords is the feeling of being stuck in your own head, convinced there are no options, when in reality the limitations are mostly internal. When they're clarified by the 10 of Pentacles and the Queen of Cups, it becomes clear that this mental restriction is tied to a long-term security and emotional responsibility. The 10 of Pentacles points to stability, legacy, family expectations, and the desire for something that lasts. This can include financial security, but it also covers emotional structures like staying together for the sake of tradition, family, or a future you've already invested in. For example, you might feel trapped because walking away would disrupt a carefully built life, shared resources, family ties, or a long-term plan that looks perfect on paper. The Queen of Cups adds deep empathy, emotional awareness, and sensitivity to others' feelings. This suggests that part of the trap is your own compassion. You're considering everyone else's emotions, sometimes at the expense of your own. You might tell yourself, I can't do this. It would hurt them, even if staying is slowly draining you. Together, these clarifiers show that the 8 of Swords isn't about lack of strength, it's about over-responsibility. You're mentally bound because you care deeply and because you value security and longevity. All right? You're mentally bound, by these things, but the irony is That the Queen of Cups also holds the key out of the trap: emotional honesty and self-compassion. So in the context of the overall reading, you fear disrupting stability, okay? You fear causing emotional pain, but staying stuck costs you emotionally in the long run. So the message here is gentle but clear. You are allowed to choose emotional truth without destroying everything you've built. Freedom doesn't require abandoning care or security. It requires including your own feelings in the equation. So, my dear Tauruses, I hope you found this helpful. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Hit that like button and subscribe if you like. Hit the notification if you always want to know when I upload new content. Otherwise, I hope you stay healthy, well, and happy going into February, and we will talk to you again soon. Bye.